Hi, my name's Alyssa, and I'm the owner of Paws Together Dog Training here in Madison, Wisconsin. Today, I'm going to talk with you about long line handling techniques for your dog. I'm going to talk about why I might recommend them, and then the best practices for using them. So, what you see here in my hands, this is a 15-foot long line. I use this pretty regularly for my dog anytime we're kind of out in nature somewhere. I certainly wouldn't use this in the city, but anytime there's a little more room for my dog to roam, I'll put him on the 15-foot line. Reasons I would put my dog on this 15-foot line include it gives them a lot more agency to move about freely, and when our dog gets to move more freely, there's a couple of benefits. One is we know that they'll stop to sniff more, and we actually know from research that when our dogs get to spend more time with their nose to the ground, it can reduce their heart rate, and that can help with any sort of anxious dog. Allowing our dogs to sniff is one of the best things we can do for their mental health, and the long line provides a lot of the freedom to do that. So we've got the ability to sniff, the ability to move freely, and then the other really cool thing about this leash is it can take a lot of the conflict out of the walk. Humans, we're bipeds, we walk on 2 feet, we walk in a straight line, we're going from A to B. That's very often what we're doing when we're out on a walk. And that's just not the way a dog naturally walks. So if you're ever out in a field with your dog and you just watch them move around, you can see they're zigzagging, they're trotting, there's all kinds of ways they might be moving their body that are really antithetical to how humans might be moving on a walk. So when we allow them the freedom from a long line, they can have that sort of zigzag following the smells. They can walk a little faster to get to a smell, and we can catch up to them. And by the time we catch up to them, they might be ready to move on. So we're taking a lot of the conflict out of the walk right away. Major reasons I might suggest that you use a long line for your dog is 1, just because you want to. 2, if your dog suffers from some kind of anxiety. 3, if you're noticing that your dog is really pulling on walks, this can help to reduce the pulling on the walks. So next I'm going to talk to you about proper technique for handling a long line. The one that I have in my hand right now, you can see it actually has a hand loop at the end. And for safety reasons, the best way to actually hold this leash is by putting the loop around your thumb and then gripping with your hand like this. The reason I recommend this over, putting your whole hand into the leash, into the loop here, is because if your dog were to take off and this gets stuck on your hand, of course, you could see that potentially as a benefit, because they're not going to get very far, but you can also really injure yourself. So if your dog's really strong, they could pull you down. Whereas if you just have the loop around your thumb and for some reason they start bolting after a squirrel or something, you can drop the leash really easily and save your body from whatever trauma might have happened if you were pulled over. So we're going to start with our thumb in this loop and holding on. Now here's the really important part that can be really tricky for a lot of people. We've got 15 feet of leash here. How are we going to manage this? So the best technique is actually, we've got about an arm's length between my hand that's holding the handle and my second hand. And I'm gonna bring the leash over my palm, place the leash on my palm, and then run my hand back down the leash and then fold it back on top. And then look here, I have created 2 little sets of, actually 1 set of dog ears, so that I'm going out on my pinky side, over the palm, out on my thumb side, over the palm, out on my pinky side. Note the difference. I could go out over my pinky side, loop it in a circle, out over my pinky side, loop it in a circle. This is not what you want to see. You don't want to see the circle here. And again, I'm going to go back to why this is the case. If our dog starts pulling all of a sudden and our leash gets out of our control, it's going to cause some real pain in your hand, and it's going to get stuck, or has a likelihood to get stuck and again pull you over. So this first method where I was talking about going out over your pinky side to the palm, over your thumb side, back to your palm, pinky side, palm, allows it to come out freely from your hand if it needs to come out really quickly. So that's all for safety of the human. So I've talked a lot about actually the safety for the human side of this, but one thing I haven't mentioned already is the safety for the dog part. So something you'll notice is that my dog is on a harness. That's something I always recommend if you're going to use a long line. Again, because if your dog all of a sudden bolts, I don't want them to be gaining a bunch of momentum and energy and then hitting the end of the leash on their collar. The harness provides a much softer landing for them. So, hi pup. I am also attaching this leash to the back side of his harness. There is a clip attachment point on the front, but when I'm using the long line especially, I want to use the back side so that it keeps more of the leash out from underneath his feet. So you can see, imagine he stopped here to sniff. Every time he's stopping to sniff, I'm coiling up this leash just like we talked about. And then if we walk, okay, yeah, let's go together. Okay, so now we're out on a walk with my dog on the long line. And again, I've got the hand loop around my thumb, and I'm gonna coil up the leash to make these dog ears, and we'll go walking. So one of the things I'm always looking for is I want to have, as much as possible, this sort of nice smile shape from the attachment point on my dog to my second hand. And there you go, he can stop and sniff. If I wanted to, I could keep walking, and then as he comes back towards me, I collect the long line and I allow him to move forward. That's all totally fine. And he stops to sniff and I collect the long line again. So it's sort of this like dance-like walk with the leash and my dog. He stops to sniff, I coil. Good job, Bodes. And if he checks in with me, he gets a reward for that. Very nice.